YouTube. So today I finally transitioned my character over to this Storm Brand. This is footage that I'm just playing in the background for. I just assumed that people probably like to see some gameplay, so hopefully I don't really die on this build when you watch this. This is just for my stream. But basically, this character has been pretty good overall. No real complaints. I actually did something really dumb when I swapped him over. So I swapped the character over, and I was using the Militant Faith Jewel, which changed what's it called, Elemental Equilibrium, to the node that gives you more damage per power charge, more spell damage. So I had Elemental Equilibrium for a lot of these fights that you'll see that I will be including in this build guide or build diary video. I don't really want to say it's a build guide because I haven't really like came up with a super fleshed out variant of it, but as you can see, the build is pretty strong and I actually very enjoy playing it. I think that this revelation of using the March of the Legion boots with playing Archmage makes it very potent in the sense that you gain an aura 50%. So you pretty much gain Zealotry, which is 16% more spell damage, and you get spell crit on top of it. And then you also get Wrath for free without having to run what's it called, Essence Swarm. So it allows for a lot of interesting combinations that isn't possible before, and you can also get a lot more defenses if you use Grace. I'm using Haste at the moment. So I use Grace instead of Malevolence, I would get a lot more defense than I normally would. Only bad part about this pair of boots is that you don't have mana on it, but it still has like 30% move speed at the top end. It still has some armor, and it still has +2 auras, so it's not the worst boots in the world. But basically, this is my take on the Archmage Storm Brand build, except you use March of the Legion boots, and this is what you would transition over from after you finish playing the Spellslinger Storm Brand. Because although the Spellslinger Storm Brand build is really, really strong, it's not going to be good enough for mapping. And I also know that there's a lot of Storm Brand builds out there that just aren't tanky enough, in my opinion. And it's just a sad state of softcore PoE in that you have to play like mind over matter to do self cast, or the build is just going to be too squishy. And with like mind over matter defenses, this build feels tanky enough. Once you get like 4k HP and 10k mana, the character is pretty much going to be unkillable. I was able to do almost all the content in the game with the setup like Shaper Invitation. I didn't try the Breach Invitation yet, but I was able to do the Shaper Invitation and Maven all deathless actually, and this character is actually stronger than Exsanguinate character in bossing. So I'm gonna go over like a character's gear, the whole build setup, and how you actually play this build, because this build is kind of like a lot of buttons. It's kind of like playing a slam caster build now that you have these auras. But the reward is super good. The playstyle feels pretty smooth to me, and it's definitely what I will play for the new league unless they change some stuff drastically. But let's go over the gear real fast. But this gear is kind of, I think I estimated it out around like 15 to 16 exalts, which you should be able to slowly farm up in the first like 1 to 2 days, as long as you're doing, as long as you're just playing the game a lot, it should be fine. By the time you get to level 90, you should be able to farm somewhere around that amount of currency. Obviously, you don't need some of the stuff. Like the main cost of the build is the 6-link cloak. You could definitely play it on a 5-link, and that would cut down the cost of the build by 6 exalts. And you don't need to use the Asenath's Gentle Touch, and this is probably 5 to 6 exalts. So you can definitely play this on a much more affordable setup where you use rare gloves and you use a 5-link cloak. So the bulk of the cost of the build is in these two items. Just wanted to warn everyone. So for the wands, what we're looking for here is pretty much just high mana, crit multi, and cast speed if possible, and anything else is a bonus on top. So if you get those 3 things on it, you can just craft on spell damage. So this one has a crit chance for spells as the bonus thing. And then I'm using this thing. It's a accumulator wand. I don't really know how good this is. I'd probably just use an imbued wand. I pretty much just bought this because it was the cheapest wand. Both these wands cost like 10-20 chaos. Although it's at this point in the league now, so a wand like this might be a lot more expensive at league start. But again, this is a wand basically with just cast speed, mana, and crit multi, and crafted on spell damage. So it's extremely easy to get something like this. I'm not really sure exactly how much it would cost, but It shouldn't be too expensive even at League Start, and it should definitely be under 1 Exalt. So then we have this helm right here. Ideally, you want the Storm Brand penetrates 12% enchant on the crown of the inward eye. This helm is pretty much mandatory because of the damage you gain from transfiguration of soul, body, and mind. And since we're not a Hierophant, this is actually very important to have. This helm is not perfect. It's not perfect roll, 21%. And it definitely needs a Storm Brand enchant. I would definitely pick it up if you were trying to play this build. Aziri's Foible is a pretty, cookie cutter item for Mind Over Matter builds. And you allocate Mind Drinker, which is the node over here. And this just gives us recover mana on kill. This item is pretty much mandatory to have. So like these two items are pretty much mandatory. Like the nice part about playing Mind Over Matter builds is there's actually uniques for this build that are very mandatory. So you don't need to worry so much about having like the Path of Exile searches up. So basically this Aziri's Foible, you should try to focus on the percent mana roll. I got a pretty bad one because I bought this for extremely cheap. Expect these to go for around like 40 to 50 chaos at League Start, and it kind of stays around that price. So then we have a 6-link Cloak of Defiance. The mana roll is pretty much the only thing that matters. I bought this cloak, and it has the enchant on it, grants 1 mana per 2% quality. So that's pretty much just having like 10 extra quality on the chest. So this also saves you a point from having to take Mind Over Matter. So this is pretty much like the best chest you could possibly have. I think a Shaper chest is better because you can get the 10% damage on it, and then you would have to take the Mind Over Matter node. But it's hard to beat Cloak of Defiance in terms of how efficient it is. So at League Start, pretty much just pick up a Cloak of Defiance and call it a day. So for the rings here, these are pretty much just life, mana, and resist rings. I think these cost around probably like 40-50 chaos. You could get less resist. You don't need this much resist actually. But this ring also has life and mana. Another good stat you can get on it is mana regen, which I did not opt to get because I forgot about how good mana regen is. So if you can get mana regen on the ring, it'll be a very good stat because mana regen is pretty much like life regen for this build. The more mana regen you have, the tankier the build will feel. And then the belt is another life, mana, and then some resist belt. So you can see every single piece here is pretty much unique, and if it's not unique, it's life, mana, and resist. Then Asenath's Gentle Touch, you'll use these on an aura stacker later on, so feel free to buy this pair of gloves. You do not need a +1/+2 at all. These are just a pair that I have currently, so it helps to clear out quite a bit. It's not as insane on this build because you don't scale fizz damage and you don't have hatred scaling at all. So it's not exactly the most game breaking thing ever, but it definitely does help to clear a little bit. And then it's this item, the boots, which is what makes this build work. So ideally you want, on the boot enchant, you want either Pen if you haven't killed recently, or you want 70% mana regen if you cast a spell recently. I just couldn't get that, so I just got chance to avoid being stunned if you killed recently, which is not the worst thing in the world. So right here, what this means is that you can run 4 50% auras, or 4 auras in general, depending on what you want to run. And generally, you're not able to run auras on Archmage build because if you have unreserved mana, it's pretty much your damage, right? So you don't want to run auras. So when people run auras on an Archmage build, they use the Essence Form ring, which makes 1 aura not reserve mana. So what this means is that by using March of the Legion boots, we can cheat the system by running 4 50% auras, and there are pretty good auras for this build, which include Haste for cast speed, movement speed, and then you also have Wrath aura for more spell lightning damage, and then you also have Zealotry, which gives you more spell damage and spell critical strike chance. And then you also have Malevolence, which increases the duration of Storm Brand. You could also use another damaging aura here. So there's a lot of different options you can use here, which could help you out. So you might be wondering, how does the playstyle actually work? So the playstyle of this build is kind of a lot, right? So you have Arcane Cloak on your left click. So every time you run around, well, this is off cooldown, you'll have Arcane Cloak and you have 5,000 extra HP. And it also makes your Storm Brand do a lot more damage. So pretty much when you map, you want to put down the Storm Brands, and then you want to press Brand Recall to bring them along with you, because you don't want to cast Storm Brands that much, because they cost a lot of mana, and you don't want to use all your mana. And then every 25 to 30 seconds, depending on how much duration you have to cast these auras. And they cast pretty fast, right? And if you're playing Stormbrand already, there's a lot of downtime. So you have the time to cast the auras. So you have 450% auras, and it increases the damage by quite a bit. So you can see without the auras, you'll probably be missing like 50% damage. And part of that is also due to this node here called Supreme Ego. And the way Supreme Ego works is that you can only have one permanent aura on you from your skills. And it costs the auras reserve 50% more, but the auras have 50% more effect on you. However, with March of the Legion boots, this means that these auras aren't permanent, so we gain the benefit of Supreme Ego with being able to run 4 auras. So we have pretty much 5 auras that we're running with Clarity. So we're running Clarity, and then we're running these 4 auras. So we have 5 auras while using Supreme Ego and gaining the benefit. So this is actually a pretty game-breaking thing. And it does allow us to get an insane amount of damage that we normally probably would not be able to get. So that is my take on the Archmage Stormbrand build. And I think it's actually pretty OP. And it does allow you to get GG damage a lot earlier on. Now some people might not enjoy the playstyle. So I wanted to go over the gems real fast. So you have increased duration, arcane surge, arcane cloak, second wind. So this pretty much just gives us some cooldown recovery on arcane cloak and makes it last longer. I know some people don't like to use duration on arcane cloak, but it's just a personal preference. And then here we have Hydro Spear, Clarity, or Hydro Spear, LA Weakness, and Hex Touch. I'll put Clarity here. I think I just shuffled around the auras a little bit. So basically, we put down Hydro Spear. It applies exposure, and it also applies LA Weakness. Although LA Weakness right now, you need Awakened Hex Touch. You would put Assassin's Mark on it. So you don't really need Hex Touch on this. I just have it from my previous setup. But now for the chest piece, we have Conk Effect, Storm Brand, Awakened Lightning Pen, Divergent Swift Brand, Control Destruction, Archmage. You don't need like Awakened Gems. I just had it and I just used it to test it out. But basically, these are the best links. They give you the most damage, and they also give you the most, I think, mana multiplier. I guess Swift Brand is not that much mana multiplier, but it's such a good gem that we just use it anyhow. And then we also have Archmage, which is our last support gem. And now for the gloves, there's Sigil of Power, Brand Recall, Righteous Fire. So we could actually maintain Righteous Fire. So if you look at it here, we have Righteous Fire on, and we actually do not degen at all. So Sigil of Power you want to cast on bosses, so you want to put these 2 down and stand next to the boss or whatever, and then you also do more damage while you can use mana in Sigil of Power. So it's actually really important for you to stand inside of Sigil of Power when playing. And then second wind for the extra charge of Sigil of Power. So basically, then you have your Flame Dash, Clarity, Second Wind, Smoke Mine, Shenanigans. So basically, this build has a lot of buttons, right? But it's very rewarding to play. It's very, very strong for the amount of gear investment you have. And most importantly is that it feels tanky. And this is with the character being at level 79, 80. I was able to do Uber Elder, I did Maven, I did Shaper, all pretty much deathless. So levels scale the build a lot because every level you gain life and mana. So I'm going to level up this build a little bit more on stream. I'm going to get it to like level mid-90s or something, and then we'll see how it is. Because we still have cluster jewels to take, so you can take the brand clusters, or you can do a first among equals for some more duration on the auras. There is a lot of different routes for this build. You can get another cluster here, or you can even go to get this cluster. So there's a lot of expansion room for this build and a lot of tweaks I can make to make it a lot better. I should probably be getting Healthy Mind here to convert the life to mana. But like I said, I just put together this character pretty fast within like an hour or 2. So it's probably not perfect right now, but I just wanted to give an update and just showcase some of the potential of this character because I truly believe that March of the Legion boots are a broken item if you can utilize it on an Archmage build. Because if you think about it, usually if you don't play Archmage, you only get to use 3 auras because you would just cast, because you have the mana to cast one of the 50% auras, so you could just reserve it normally. So you only gain 3 auras. But with Archmage, since you can't actually reserve any of your mana because it's a damage loss, you actually gain 4 auras. And the beauty of this build is you can tailor the auras to what you want to do. So if you feel like you're lacking in defenses, you can use Grace, and that will increase your survivability by a lot. But overall, I'm pretty satisfied. I'm going to showcase some clips now of the Shaper Invitation, a Maven kill, and Uber Elder. And keep in mind that most of the videos that you'll see, or the upcoming clips, I had Elemental Equilibrium spec'd into. And the damage will be much, much higher once you get level 90s or so. So the potential is definitely there. And this will probably be my Leaguestarter, barring any significant changes to the patch notes, which there might be for sure.
But I'd never say goodbye or ever leave this stuff behind. When it's good, it's amazing. When it's bad, it's uneasy. I wouldn't have it another way. There's no other way. Yeah. When it hurts like this, ever like, ever like, ever like. Watching the ocean with you, baby, up with a slow motion crew. And we up in our cloudlands when people change, but not us. And we just chillin', kicking it, kissed by the sun. Could be soaked to the skin in the monsoon. I know she got the good vibes when seasons change, but we're the same. Even if I lost all my money, the zero runs deep, honey. And I don't need to speak a single word. You got me holding, holding. Even if my jokes aren't funny, my tongue tied up on it. And I don't need to speak a single word. Cause you got me holding, holding. Cause you got me holding, holding. take it in real life like haiku. I know we got the good vibes when pieces fall right into place. Even if I lost all my money, the zero runs deep, honey. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. Even if my jokes aren't funny, my tongue tied up on it. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. 'Cause you got me holding, holding. 'Cause you got me holding, holding. Play me like a bass guitar, simmer down and mess me up, tripping like I'm Jimmy at Woodstock. Drive me around in your red Ford, shivers down my spinal cord. Oh, 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 oh. 'Cause you got me holding, holding. Even if I lost all my money, the zero runs deep, honey. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. Even if my jokes aren't funny, my tongue tied up on it. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding.
Here we go again.
I hoped everyone enjoyed the clips of the bossing. It's actually kind of surprising because I thought the damage was really bad at the start, and it's purely because I EE spec'd. So everyone should know that elemental penetration, or being able to penetrate lightning resist, is huge. So like already we're missing like 22% more pen. So you can get 12% pen from the helm, and you can get 10% pen from the boot enchant. And a lot of people ask me about how rare these boots are and how expensive they'll be if this build ever gets popular. And the answer is that the boots are so common that I don't think, even if the build was super popularized, and people have tried to popularize the build, but I think a lot of people just don't enjoy how you have to press a lot of the buttons, especially on an Archmage build. So I don't think the boots will be very expensive at League Start, so that should be something that's pretty good. And most of the items will exist relatively early on, and the cost of this build is not that much. Obviously you want Bottle Faith later on, and this build is actually better than the Archmage BFBB build I did last time, purely because it's crit, and we're able to go crit because we can use Zealotry and we have the spare points. And these points for the brand nodes are actually incredibly good, I think. So let's see how much multi we have on a brand. So we have 358% multi, purely because of these nodes right here and nodes right here. And then we have some multi on our wands. Overall, probably one of the better League Start builds that I've seen and that I've personally played. But the main problem is that you have to hope that Agnostic does not get nerfed. I don't think brands will be touched, but this whole mind over matter agnostic playstyle might go the way of the dinosaurs, so watch out for that. So that's why it's always like kind of premature to make any like 3.15 videos, but I thought to myself that I kind of really wanted to try out these boots, so I gave it a try, and it is incredibly OP. So thanks for watching, everyone. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content, and comment down below if you have any questions you want me to answer. I do stream every day on Twitch, so if you want to hop in and ask me some questions, I generally try to answer as long as I can see the comment. But yeah, thanks for watching, everyone, and I hope you find more mirrors and exalts than I do, and I hope you enjoy this build and you're able to try it out in 3.15 if they don't nerf it. And see you next time.